Wolong is a fantastic game with some astoundingly good and bad boss fights. This video is fat, so I don't want it to waste any of your time with dumb intros. Let's get into it. Number 18. Zhang Rang. Let's start with the worst of the worst. Even if you haven't played this game, you'll quickly see why this fight is at the bottom of the barrel. Is there some quota of unfun boss fights creators of Souls-likes always have to fill every game? This guy is basically just a regular mob that summons 9 exact copies of himself to constantly chase you. What makes the fight even worse is that even if you clear all of Rang's shadow clones, he can just summon a dozen more helpers to fill their annoying spots. This game would simply be better off without this fight altogether, which is why Zhang Rang definitely deserves the title of worst in the game. Number 17, Baish. Wolong is a game with some unforgettable boss fights. Unfortunately, this fight is unforgettable because it's almost an exact copy of a Dark Souls 2 boss fight. A poisonous snake-like green mermaid lady and a circular stone room. How blatant can you get? I guess it's kind of interesting when she starts crawling the walls, but that seems hardly enough to redeem this particularly bland fight. At least there's no shadow clones, I guess. Number 16, Dongzhou. Big fat forgettable spear dude is what my notes say for this guy. I wouldn't say the battle is bad like the previous fights mentioned, but I wouldn't say this is good either. I actually forgot it even existed as I replayed the game because of how unmemorable Mr. Dong is. He's basically another big guy with a big spear, and that's pretty much all I have to say about him. Number 15, Zhang Bao. Yeah, this is that Bell guy from the beginning of the game. I honestly thought he'd be a bigger character in the story of Wolong, but apparently not. He dies in the first act. The only reason I ranked him higher than others is because he actually has a pretty memorable character design. Plus, I think this cutscene is kind of funny. In all seriousness, he's a decent boss to teach the basics of deflecting, tracking, and red attacks. Plus, you have the advantage of fighting him with some companions. Not terrible by any means. Number 14, Yuan Shao. Imagine if a big turtle mech had a snake for an arm, and that's pretty much this fight. I honestly think the character design is really cool, and I like how steam shoots out of the shell when he moves, almost like some sort of Japanese robot battle. Another cool detail is that you can actually break off his turtle shield and do increased damage for a limited time. I always love games that have unique little details like this. However, to be fair, I think the fight is a little too easy due to how slowly he moves, but I still found myself really enjoying dodging his shotgun blasts and freezing mists. He's fun, and that's good enough for me. Number 13, Aoye. To this point in the game, nothing had really taken my breath away. Not until this friendly bull's horrifying cutscene. I love the setting as well as the demonic mutated design of this grass-grazing beast. The fight's a blast, and my only complaint is that he'll occasionally push you into a corner and the camera doesn't squeeze his giant body in very well. Overall, I really like this fight, but I can see how it could be polarizing for some, which is why I put him down at 13. Giant enemies and narrow camera perspectives always seem to be a sore spot for gamers, but come on. You gotta admit, he's one of the most memorable-looking enemies in the entire story. You also get to fight another version of him later on in the final battlefield, which I thought was a little out of place, but not bad enough to make me hate him. A rewarding fight overall, with some very minor complaints. Number 12, Liu Bei. Our very first flying boss on the list, and boy did this one shut me down for a while. First off, in my opinion, this is one of the best man mixed with beast enemies visually. He's kind of like an electric eel mixed with a mountain goat, and I think he looks stunning with his dual combat swords. I swear at times this guy is chaining attacks faster than the Orphan of Kos, which makes for an exhilarating battle. There's a couple downsides to the Green Menace, however. For starters, he really likes his arena-filling lightning waves. There's times when he'll spam it again and again, just waiting for you to mess up so he can fly down and smack you. This plus the fact that he has very fast chain hits equals an unfair feeling in my mouth. I'm a fan of Liu Bei, but as we'll see later, I think there's other much better airborne bosses in Wolong. Number 11, Corrupted Lu Blue. What in the world, a man mixed with a horse? What is this, a furry convention? Jokes aside, Corrupted Lu Blue is a late-game battle with an altered version of a previously seen boss. Frankly, I'd say this version of him is much easier than his first encounter, but that doesn't necessarily make it better or worse. What I liked is the idea of the merging of him and his trusty steed. What I don't like is how it reminds me of some weird My Little Pony cosplay. Okay, I know it's not that bad, and this fight is honestly pretty cool and enjoyable. Story-wise, there is significance when we realize the girl we're with is actually Horseman's brother. But honestly, lore has never made up for bland attacks to me at least, and some of these are ones we've already seen. Nonetheless, I still appreciated the challenge. This is a good boss, and for now, Corrupted Lu Blue holds its reputable spot at number 11. Number 10, Zhang Liao, a noble battle between two guys in awesome armor. Except this wild guy has lightning rods strapped to his back. Zhang Liao is a trusty warrior that commands the divine beast of lightning authority. This fight is one of the few that feels truly noble. He's loyal warrior putting his life on the line to defend the country. And in this fight, there's a sense of seriousness and honor. The mechanics of the fight remind me of Genichiro, but if he didn't resort to heresy or demonic power, just the strength of his honor. The fight is fun, but my complaint is how uninspired the boss arena is. At this point in the game, we've already fought multiple enemies and bosses in other large pagodas. It could have been much cooler if Liao's lightning powers ripped through the ceiling above our heads as he prepared to strike us down, or some other unique event. Now let's see what boss marks the halfway spot. Number 9, Xiaohu Dun. What happens when you shoot somebody in the head with an evil arrow? Apparently, according to Wo Long, they turn into a boss from Diablo. I really like this fight, even though my AI speaker definitely can't say its name correctly. The weapon of this demonic Grim Reaper is a giant meaty scythe, and it looks sick. And he's on fire all the time. In my opinion, this is a more stylistic and fairer fight than the similar flying serpent monster Liu Bei previously mentioned. I love the twirls and scythe spinning. I love the telegraphed red attacks, and I love the shock value upon seeing the monster transformation. My complaints are minor. Even though the constantly on fire enemy does look really cool, it actually clouds the screen quite a bit when he gets close up. That effect can make it tough to precisely deflect this whirlwind of fiery metal. Other than that, this may actually be my favorite fight from a boss design point of view. It's absolutely sinister and I love it. Number 8, Sun Jian. Yeah, this is pretty much the tiger boss, and who doesn't love getting mauled by a giant evil tiger? Is he wielding some dumb average sword? Nope. He's using sick kung fu kicks to mess you up. I have almost nothing to complain about when it comes to Sun Jian. He's fun, he's fair, and he looks great. Also, did I mention his tail is basically an enormous scorpion stinger? Pretty cool in my book. This fight is just straight up no BS video game fun. Some people might complain that he's just an amped up version of the regular tiger mob you fight many times in the game, but to me he's different enough in his moveset and design that it's a non-issue for me. But my one single complaint yet again is that we are fighting in this exact same dogo-looking arena once again. Sure, it's fine one or two times, but I would have loved to see some more meaningful boss arenas across the board. Other than that, Crouching Tiger is a blast at number 8. Number 7, Tao Ti. I absolutely adore this hideous monster. Yeah, I know, some demons have bodies only mothers could love, but this homie is just built different. In all seriousness, this fight may be the most visually unalike from any other boss in the game. Towering over the flaming buildings surrounding us, this hooved red giant will fill up your entire screen as he lumbers over you. Giant bosses can be a sore spot, yet the difference with Taioti is how he's actually balanced well around how big he is. His stomps are slow and predictable. His deflects are large and cinematic. Also, his death blows easy and fun to activate. More games should give you the ability to climb up the side of the enemy like a freaking bug, hopping the mountains of blubber towards his weak spot. Big Boy also gets the award for only memorable boss music in the entire game. I'm fine if most of the music sounds the same, but I really appreciate memorable moments like when Cowman leaps to the sky. The regular music almost stops, and you can hear strings creating the dread of his impending impact. All in all, I love this dude, but I can see how others might think he's too easy. Regardless, I feel confident putting him at number 7. Number 6, Zhang Liang, General of Man. Simply put, this is a great beginner's boss fight. At this point in the game, you are probably still trying to understand the deflect system and figure out how the controls differ from Dark Souls. Then they throw a big guy with a giant hammer at you and slap an imposing health bar on the top of the screen. This fight is honestly pretty tough, all things considered. But it's one of those battles when you die, you know it was your own fault. And that's what makes it work. Halfway through the fight, a surprising second phase triggers, and the General of Man sprouts a spring-like scaly arm to slash at you from across the battlefield. Even after completing the game a few times, hitting the red deflect on his arm is one of the most enjoyable parries in the whole game. It's possible people gave up when they realized during this fight what kind of game this would be, but I still think he's a fantastic barrier to entry for the rest of Wo Long. Number 5, Zhang Jiao, General of Heaven. Controversy time? Yeah, I think this fight is straight up great. Maybe it's not actually controversial, I have no freaking idea. Anyways, this man-turned-monster looks like he's right out of Bloodborne, which is an amazing thing. I love how his clothing floats and how it sways around as he attacks. What's interesting is, usually I actually don't enjoy fighting magical hombres, but this fight has tight mechanics that make the close quarters combat interesting rather than annoying. To be fair, he does have a tendency to spam a few tornadoes in your face, much like Godric the Grafted, but they do so little damage, and they're dodgeable, so I don't take offense to it. Overall, he's a memorably designed encounter with great parries and a unique arena. What more could a gamer ask for? Well, we're about to find out. Number 4, UG, Embodiment of Demonic Ki. It's safe to say the bosses from here on out are of an outstanding and premier quality. This boss in particular is the cinematic final boss of Wo Long, and boy does it deliver. The nasty-looking evil wizard that's been messing with you the entire game is finally in your grasp, while his trustee Black Dragon is bound nearby. His first phase has a variety of spells and tactics which feel great to deflect and counter. This is a fun battle on its own, but what takes the cake is the second phase, as we all know. In an act of pure evil and retreat, UG takes on the form as the human embodiment of his sinister dragon companion. He literally looks like a boss out of the vaults of Resident Evil China Edition, and that's not a bad thing. The cutscene is actually jaw-dropping. The dragon fight has epic sweeping swords and tail whips that span the whole rooftop. Deflecting these attacks feels powerful and looks stunning when pulled of at the right moment, especially his red attacks. One thing I completely missed on my first playthrough is that in the last cutscene, you actually summon all the divine beasts you've collected on your journey as you plunge your sword into him from above. I love this fight, but I do think it could be a little more difficult. But hey, it turns out there's a more difficult foe that lies ahead. Number 3, Wen Yan Duo. I'll be quick with these guys because I know the anticipation is rising. But on a side note, how is it that Wo Long has delivered to us the best dual boss fight since Dark Souls 3's Sister Friede? Even From Software hasn't been able to make Double Trouble very fun in quite some time, but this fight absolutely nails it. To start out, the quick lanky dude with his tongue hanging out will be lurching towards you with acrobatic prowess. Meanwhile, his brother Rhino from Spider-Man slowly lumbers towards you. And that's the key word, slowly. The coding for the aggressiveness of these boys actually make it enjoyable instead of a chore. I love this fight and think it's so well done, with probably the best red parries in the game. Typically, I hate when a member of a duo resurrects their downed companion. But in this fight, I was so happy, because it meant I could keep fighting. That's how fun it is. Perhaps this is my personal favorite for most fun fight. However, there's a good problem we have. There's still 2 more contestants on the list. Number 2, Blue. Oh yeah, it's your boy. Horseback riding, bow shooting, flame wielding, Mr. Blue Sky himself. All I can say is, what a treat this boss turned out to be. Up to this point, Wo Long hadn't really impressed me with its visuals, levels, or bosses. I liked the combat, but felt like there weren't any crazy formidable foes to really clash my blade against. Nothing like what FromSoft games have conditioned me to enjoy. But then came riding in, this beastly armored dude with his sick helmet. He peers down and gives you the classic look of disapproval, and this is where the game cranks things up. This man will kick the piss out of you over and over again. Fortunately, the time feels well spent, mastering the dance of combat. To be clear, just because the fight is the most challenging up to this point in the game isn't the reason I think he's so great. He's just designed so well with a variety of interesting and fair moves that are fun to interact with. The fact that he can remount his horse and change the tempo of the battle has such a premium feeling to it. There's only so much I can explain without letting you get a real hands-on experience with him. But I will leave it by saying, defeating Blue in victory was the highlight of the entire story for me. That is, until our number 1 champion. Number 1, Blindfolded Boy. What Melania is to Elden Ring, Blindfold over here is to Wo Long. Remember how I said the evil wizard dude was the final boss? Well, that's what everyone thinks until you walk back into this eerily moonlit pasture. Blindfolded Homie is actually the true final boss, and he will test everything you've learned on your journey. What's most impressive to me is just how many attack combos, spells, and red attacks they've managed to cram into this one singular fight. Going through and counting the footage, I'd say I've experienced between 16 and 20 different combos this boy has, which is insane. If I'm not mistaken, there's even more, depending on which elemental power he is channeling at the time. The fact that the best fight is saved as a surprise ending made me giddy. I felt that video game magic once again, so props to the team that came up with this masterful battle. In my eyes, Blindfolded Boy is an easy top-of-the-list pick. But this and all the others are just my opinion. I really do want to hear yours in the comments below. I love the discussion of great games, so subscribe if you'd like to take part in it here. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.